Arua is a bustling town in West Nile. It is one of the fastest growing towns in Uganda and borders Koboko district. Because it's strategically located near DR Congo in South Sudan, business here is booming. Some of the timber products from K Forest are carted here. 54 kilometers from Arua in the north is Koboko town, which lies at the parallels with South Sudan, the neighboring state enveloped by conflict. Timber business is lucrative in this area. The truckloads of timber are carted and offloaded at various shops. Most of the timber comes from Mount K Forest in Yumbe district. This forest, once a natural expanse of 41 km, extends from Yumbe to South Sudan. On our first day, we set off from Arua town to Yumbe at around 4:45 a.m. at the crack of dawn. We proceeded towards Arapanga, a shabby outpost which is close to Mount K Forest in Yumbe district. Nearby, we saw a truck that had already been stocked with logs and charcoal. We also found men carrying charcoal en route to Yumbe town. This is another illegal business that threatens the existence of Mount K Forest. Through the narrow dirt roads, we were led to a log collection center next to abandoned grass-thatched houses. It's not clear if the occupants deliberately left to create a safe haven for the dealers. The loggers pick them from the forest using cranes before they are loaded on trucks. We had to go away during daybreak to avoid being noticed in the area. The next day we left at 3 a.m. It is a journey estimated at 190 kilometers that we had to undertake to reach K Forest. This trailer carrying logs was parked on the outskirts of Koboko town. Later, we found police had mounted a roadblock and had stopped a truck carrying logs. We were told that this happened because there was a dispute over ownership, meaning that if that wasn't the case, this truck would not have been stopped. In this area, Chakobanas endured a punishing long-distance trek under the cover of the dark with their loot on bicycles. Kerwa is the last outpost towards the South Sudan border. Here we found dried African mahogany tree. We could not proceed any further with the vehicle. We took a narrow path across the tropical savanna grasslands.
We had a cock on the other side, so meaning there could be a home. Thus, we must change direction and take another path that would lead us to where these people are going to be cutting logs. But they are very, very, very sensitive people, and first of all, if you're new in the area, that worries them because they will understand that exactly there must be somebody in the area who is new and maybe is wrecking, so that they get arrested.
We avoid leaving footmarks which can be used by loggers who are armed with machetes to trace us. But to do this story, we had to overcome fear.
The security situation is still fluid because just 2 weeks ago we've been told by the locals that one person was shot not far from here, about 2 kilometers from here or less. And those were South Sudanese, rebels who managed to get into this area. So some of them occupy this very forest or the resource.
Sheernut tree species, which are targeted by illicit loggers, also are endangered species because they are sought after by charcoal burners. They are a source of food and oil. We made our way into the deeper recesses of this forest, following the roads used by log dealers. We are in Kerwa sub-county, a few kilometers away from the border between Uganda and South Sudan on the other side. As you can see, this is a clear route used by the big trucks. We are told by the locals that there is nobody who owns a car on this side and also the other side. And there are still tire marks here, especially for the big trucks, a sign of a recent activity in the area, especially of logging. And what we are told also is that in this very place, the most sought after trees are Aphyseria africana. And you can see on the other side, one is already down. And it could have been cut some time back, but that is an example of the illegal logging that takes place in this place that seems not protected at all. The level of destruction here is abundant. Inside the deafening silence of this forest, occasionally peppered with a canopy of insect noises, we heard the rumbling sound of a power saw less than a kilometer away. We suspected the locals might have tipped them off because they stopped cutting when we got closer. We had to wait for about 3 hours for another chance. In the middle of the shrubs lies a piece of timber in an area which was once a flowing stream. This means the forest or area no longer receives enough rain due to deforestation. The locals who have lived here shared with us their experience of climate 20 years ago and climate today.
The weather has already changed. We don't have enough rain. We always have rain. Mostly we get crops at the second season. For the first season, we don't get it.
As we meandered across the forest, we discovered another area where the logs are kept before they are carted off for sale. This area was also the home for White Rhino Sanctuary, established in 1938 on 170 square mile Mount Kay Forest Reserve to save the endangered species. Once a bastion of conservation, today the rhino is no more, having fallen to numerous snares of poachers seeking a fortune in the horn. There are barely any mature trees. What dots the area are the branches of Aphyselia africana or African mahogany tree. However, the shreds of hardwood remain fresh even after a long time due to variations in humidity, small shrinking rates during drying, and a good natural durability of Aphyselia species. The Natural Resource Manager of National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, points out alarming statistics of illicit logging.
Check what has happened in the forest cover. 1900, it was at 50%, about 12.1 million hectares. 1990, that's about 90 years or so down the road, it fell to 24%, about 4.9 million hectares. Now, 2015, it is down to about 8 to 9%, about 1.5 to 1.8 million hectares. Now, 2018, it might be maybe 1.2.
In the middle of the forest, our people have lived here for over 10 years. NEMA reveals the extent at which this tree is endangered.
Government has gazetted this tree as a reserved tree species, meaning even if it is on your land, without having a permit, you cannot cut it. Anybody who is going to cut that tree, whether it is in a Mount Kay, should have a permit to do that.
A stone throw away from South Sudan, the sound of a power saw is heard. We try to trace them. This illicit log had just split a mahogany tree, which is almost extinct in this forest.
These people who are involved in this trade are powerful people. Is that how best for them they should invest their money destroying the environment? Isn't there another way?
On our 5th day, we went to Adalaka village to lay a trap. Inside the forest, the dirt road grows narrower and dicey. We were told that the loggers here prefer to cut the trees in broad daylight.
This is the area where they are going to be cutting the trees on this other side. We couldn't go further this way because there are some homesteads, and so we must ensure that we have a cover before any passers-by see us around, so that they don't get suspicious. And that is something that could maybe scare away the loggers, and you never know, they could be having a racket where they communicate so easily, fast, and very strategic.
I covered my camera person, Abakar Zirawa Muzali, with shrubs to disguise his presence.
You will not shift from that position.
Yet for 16 hours, nothing happened. A source later revealed that National Forestry Authority guards were using us as a decoy to trail and arrest illicit loggers. Even the shadows were enveloped by darkness as we waited up to 10 p.m. under the dark sky. Yet we were not entirely alone, as a stream of light of the moon crescent dimly illuminated the vast expanse of nature. Nature has notoriously fickle alliances, as we were about to learn. Rampaging safari ants raided the area where we were planning to spend the night. We were jinxed and drove back to Arua, only to return the next morning. After reaching the forest, illicit loggers who had been tipped that we were laying a trap to film them kept away.
So they could not allow the cutter to come with the machine, and that tells you how big the racket is. Information has already spread around that we are in the area and we want to expose them. But we shall try again another thing and see whether we shall succeed in getting these people who continuously log in this area.
We moved to another area to try again. Using shrubs and tree branches, I made a camouflage for the camera person to film while standing in order to avoid the tall grass. An hour later, the illicit logger started cutting the tree with his power saw. They were not worried about being found, as the sound of the power saw reverberates across the forest. It would take days a team of men to cut this tree without a power saw. NEMA blames this impunity on locals and failure by complicit local government officials to enforce a ban on illicit logging.
The way the law is written, NEMA's existence has not taken away their mandate. They're supposed to do their part. So when you see this problem happening, one thing I would like people to focus on, as well as the press, is to bring the district on the spotlight. That they are failing this country in supporting NEMA to do its work. In that way, we are all going to be part of the problem. Because now the districts are in so much of a comfort zone, when all the time you are saying NEMA, NFA, what. They feel okay. The person or the institution to be blamed is NEMA. For us, we are okay here. And so bad things or other activities will go on there and they just watch.
Ogwal told NTV that the recent pronouncement by President Museveni to rein in on local government officials who connive with illicit loggers can save forests from extinction.
But it's not the first time that the president is coming out to say this. So it's like simply a drop in the ocean.
Impact that you people want, I think you would like to see the president has said this today, and then the change has happened, like, I don't know, the following day immediately. But
a tree of this size is said to be about 35 years or even more. And it's not clear how many Physalia africana species that Uganda has in this part of the country, especially that is West Nile and other areas. The locals told us that such a tree, the size and the type, goes for about 50,000 shillings if they are to sell it to the dealers. But after it is being re-exported in Mombasa, a semi-trailer is said to be going for about 50 million shillings, which brings in another picture of exploitation coupled with environmental degradation. We were told that a cartel of police, local government, and other RDCs connived to sell the logs. We visited K Sub-County Police Station to interrogate these allegations.
We impound trucks and release them. If, let's say, NFA says there is this, when you get the trucks, you get calls either from RDCs or wherever, and you release.
It's not true. It's not true. And it is not even us who comes in it. It's always NFA from the district, the forest officers will normally come here. When they come here, if they want us to assist them, we assist them. Trucks arrested, they are taken to Yumbe CPS.
I asked Simon Peter Okoshi, the Deputy Commandant Environment Protection Unit, about these allegations.
You can imagine a DPC operating by requisitioning for a vehicle from the IGP each time you have to go. So without resources at our disposal where we can plan our operation, I don't think we can do much. We shall always have these allegations and complaints.
Within the precincts of the police station lay logs that were recently offloaded from the trucks. Say that there is a dispute over the ownership of these logs. What's not clear is whether they're going to charge the persons who were ferrying them, because National Forestry Authority marked Physalia africana, a tree species where these logs come from, endangered. Whether it is on your plot of land or in government reserve, you're not supposed to be cutting it. The locals who stay near some collection centers are worried about the impact of forest destruction on the ecosystem and how this could affect their livelihood.
Bring forest problem because of rain. Rain will not rain at our place.
Besides environmental degradation, the locals are complaining about the dirt roads in the middle of the forest.
It gives the way direct to the cattle which stays in the forest. They come to destroy our crops. Like you see, if you see at my garden here, there was a time which I went to the town. The time I come back, I found that the cattle have destroyed all of my maize.
I asked one of the LC chairpersons why such illicit activities continue to take place in this area without any reprimand from the authorities.
I went there, but they said that they have the paper which come from up, but they never give anything to my village.
I also interviewed sub-county leaders on these illegal practices.
Is the district partly involved in the illegal logging, cutting trees in the forest? No. They said if you were involved. No. If you're not involved, what do you do about it? If you're not involved, what do you do about it? So what are you doing about it as leaders to ensure you protect the forest? You do something?
People buy from local communities, but not in the forest.
There is that information and evidence that the trees are cut from the forest, put on trucks, those who deal in it pay you some money and they do their business.
That is not true. It's not true. It's not true.
So what are you doing about this issue of cutting trees in the forest? You as a local government?
I've been in touch with the NFA. The supervisor usually comes here. He goes to the field and he gives us information. So all along, as I've been coordinating with him, he has not briefed me about that.
So NFA has never told you that the forest is being cut? You're not aware that people cut trees in Mount K forest?
I'm not aware.
Do you live in this area?
I live in, I'm the chairperson.
So how would you know?
But she logs, but they are outside the forest because the supervisor all the time comes here and tells me.
Do you walk around the community that you serve?
I do walk.
Then how could you not tell that people are felling trees in the forest?
The trees are outside.
I'm talking about the ones in the forest, not in the communities.
No.
Police and NFA officials who are poorly equipped have to drive for over 150 kilometers to arrest illicit loggers, yet it takes less than 10 minutes to put down a big tree. On the 8th day, I went to West Nile Range Management Support Offices in Arua district to ask the officers here why they are not doing enough to deter people from cutting trees. It's like someone had alerted them. Upon arrival at the offices, we were greeted by empty offices that the receptionist even stayed away.
Nobody in this place.
I called the area manager and his phone was switched off.
The telephone number you have called is not available at the moment. Please try again later. The telephone number you have called is not available at the moment.
I had earlier contacted NFA head office in Kampala for an interview, which I was denied. It's not clear what they are hiding away from us. NEM operates under a deficit budget of 400 billion shillings, which would effectively help them to offer protection to Uganda's endangered forests and reserves. Some of the loggers had reached an extent of even advertising the logs on social media. Mount K Forest was once a natural habitat for white rhinos and other animals, but they are no more. I did not even see a squirrel for 7 days in the forest. Even the birds do not find the forest a sanctuary anymore and have flown away. Mount K Forest, which is near the theater of a shooting war between President Salva Kiir's National Army and a band of militias opposed to his regime, could turn into arid badlands where jungle prevails if no action is taken. Sudil Biaruhanga, NTV.